This is the third of a series of lectures here in Yerushalaim Kodesh. It's almost the week of Hanukkah, Tavshin Ayin Aleph. I'd like to begin, as I always do, with some divrei Torah that will apply to what we're going to talk about. Earlier on Shabbos, I attended the bris of my brother's grandchild, my great nephew, and I had the privilege of saying some divrei Torah at the bris, which relate to Hanukkah. Shalom Aleichem Benzi, holy brother. The way I said as follows: I opened up a chinuch. I was involved in one of my favorite activities, Erev Shabbos. I was sitting in the big shtibel. I don't know if they call it Ein Yaakov, whatever they call it right here. It was around 2 o'clock, and I was involved in my favorite activity, which is eating. And since it was a Sefer HaChinuch laying on the table, I decided to open it up, knowing that there was a bris, and I opened it up to the second mitzvah, I think, which is bris. The Chinuch says as follows: after saying the brachas of bris milah, the Chinuch says that what we, the people, say who attend the bris is kishem shezochiso lebris kein tiskel leTorah lechuppah lemaiskim tovim. Now we know we have another nusach. We say kishem shenichnas lebris kein tikons leTorah lechuppah lemaiskim tovim. So I said, al pidrush, homiletically speaking, it occurred to me as follows: when you say kishem shezochiso, it's all bris milah centered on the rach hanimoel. It has nothing to do with us. But bris milah, as we know, is a spiritual participant sport, meaning that everyone who attends a bris milah is an intrinsic part of the goings-on of the bris, to such an extent that we know the Pirkei Rabbi Levin, the Medrash quoted by the Bnei Yisachar and others, that whoever attends a bris receives mechila. So I suggest as follows: kishem shenichnas lebris, just like with all of the components that you, the Rach HaNimol, had your bris today, came to Kones, all of those ingredients should be a part of your Torah, Chuppah, and Maisim Tovim, meaning your bar mitzvah and your wedding. Now those components include that attended the bris. So in effect, we're including ourselves in the bracha. We're part of the Lahachnisa bris. We're the participants in that. And that's important, as it says in the Torah, Vayas Avraham Mishte Gadol B'yom Hi Gomel L'Yitzchak B'no. In other words, that they're supposed to be a big thing. Not only that, but I suggested as follows: the famous Zohar that says Yismach Yisrael Ba'osav, that when a Jew has a simcha, the Osav, his progenitors, and Rav Doi Schwartzman, Yerushalaim, told me that goes, according to the best, up to 10 doiros come down to the simcha. And since they come down to the simcha, so that's one of the reasons, in order that they shouldn't have complaints, that we get mechila when they come down to the simcha. So from that, I moved to the following. There's an unbelievable Chassam Sofer. For those who weren't here last time, the way this works is I speak Torah for around 10 minutes, but it's worth it. Then we get into what you guys call the hak, and it's going to be worthwhile. So just bear with me. I apologize, but this is just the way I do things. The Chassam Sofer says like this. There's a pasuk that says on Shimshon Hagibor, "V'hu hachel lahishia es Yisrael miyad haplishtim." He began the salvation of the Jews from the plishtim. Frak the Chassam Sofer. For tens of years afterwards, the Jews suffered terribly from the Plishtim until David HaMelech defeated them. So why does he say by Shimshon HaGibor, who lived many, many years before David, that he began the salvation of the Jews from the Plishtim? Says the Chassam Sofer, there's a Gemara, and the Rus had a sister-in-law named Orpha. In another place, she's referred to in the Nach as Harfa. So the Gemara is, get it straight. Is it Orpha or Harfa? So the Gemara gives an answer there, which is literally triple X answer. I'm not going to get into that answer now. But Chassam Sofer says that if you subtract the Harfa from Orpha, the Hay from the Ayin, what's the difference? Samach Hay, which is 65, which is the exact equivalent of Agnus. So the woman was called Arfa, and then at a certain point, the Agnus was subtracted from her, the holiness, and she became called Harfa. Says the Chasam Sofer, that when they captured Shimshon HaGibor, the Plishtim were jealous and wanted to make a race of supermen, Plishtim. So they forced Shimshon HaGibor in prison to conjugate, this is based on the Gemara, to conjugate, have relations against his will with different women. One of the women that was brought into Shimshon HaGibor for an assignation was none other than Arfa. When Shimshon lived with Arfa, he removed from her the samachet, the adnos, the holiness, if you will, and diminished and weakened Arfa and made her into Harfa, so that many years later, their child that was born from this assignation, from this union, against the will of Shimshon HaGibor, according to the Chasam Sofer, the child's name was Goliath. When he would have a confrontation with David HaMelech, David would be able to defeat him because Shimshon removed the Adnos from Orpha. Fascinating. That's why V'hu Hochel Lohishias Yisrael, how did Shimshon begin the defeat of the Plishtim? Gentlemen, there are still seats inside if you want. There are seats here, you don't have to stand. Then you're going to leave quicker because you'll be upset. Like this, if you sit down, you might start to fall asleep. We'll have a bigger crowd. Listen, Orpha minus Harfa made it possible for David to defeat Shimshon HaGibor. Thus, Shimshon began the salvation of the Jews from the Philistines. And that, says the Chasam Sofer, was what Yaakov was praying when he gave a bracha to Dan. Lishuascha kivisi Hashem. I'm praying that Shimshon HaGibor should be successful. In what? In removing the Agnos from Orpha to weaken. Now, if you look in the Gemara there, I think it's a site, you see fascinating Sachen. Shimshon HaGibor, Goliath, for 40 days and 40 nights, Hashkem ve'erev, was traversing back and forth in front of the Jewish army, and they were scared stiff from him. Says the Gemara, 40 days, day and night, levatlom, from Erev Abayka, the Chiv of Krishma, of saying of Yerushalaim, of Yerush Hashem. 40 days, says Rashi, connected the 40 days, Shen Nitna B'Torah B'Sinai. What does that mean? That Goliath had such a koyach, he was able to attack the very pinions, the essentials, the very fundamentals of Klal Yisrael. He was able to create an atmosphere of kitrug and consternation amongst the Jews and fear, to the very extent of Matan Torah itself, 40 days and 40 nights, and the credo of Klal Yisrael, Yerushalaim, day and night. Comes David. Who was David and why did David come? If you remember the Nach, David brought 10 charitzei cholav, skins of milk, from his father to his brothers. And on the way, when he was doing that, he saw what was going on. So David is who? David is Lavan Shinayim Cholav from the tribe of Yehuda. Cholav is how much? 40. Cholav is 40. David is Cholav Shinayim Halacha Kamoisai B'chol Mokam Devash V'cholav Tachas Lishonech. David confronts Goliath. His David is 40. He's the 40 of Cholav. And he defeats Goliath. David is born and dies on what day? On Shavuos, the day of Matan Torah. Torah is given on Hasinai. One of the names is Gavnunim, cheese, Cholav. We eat my Cholav on Shavuos as well as on Chanukah. Shavuos, the Torah, the holiday of Torah Shabbat Cholav. And Chanukah, the holiday of the Hisnoitzes, the flowering of Torah Shabbat Peh, because Yafta L'Kibli Yefes V'Yishkan V'Olei Shem, when the Jews defeated the Syrian Greeks, it wasn't so much a victory of material victory, but it was a spiritual victory, and therefore Yefes had to surrender their intellectual prowess, which became incorporated into the flowering of Torah Shabbat Peh. Thus we eat Cholav, which represents Torah, on both holidays. Where did that Cholav come from? Where's the source? I think I found the source. This will take another 2 minutes and we'll get into the heart. The source may just well be like this. Vayas Avraham Mishte Gadol b'Yom Higomel es Yitzchak. What is Yom Higomel? One thing the Chazal says is Hey Gimel Mol. It was his birthday. It was his bris day. The other one is he was Higomel from the Yetzer Hara. He got a Yetzer Tov. It was his bar mitzvah. And the third pshat is the Yom Higomel when he was weaned from milk. And of course we have to say in some way it's Elu Elu Direli Kim Chayim. So it comes out like this. The Chazal tell us according to the bris also this happened. Or according to the Yom Higomel this happened. Listen to this. When they came, they invited, it says Mishta Gadol. What does the Chazal say? Gedolim Olam Hayasham. Who is there? God was the God of Olam. And what's his name? Og Melech HaBashan was there, the giant Og. And Gedolei Olam were all the noblemen of that era were there. And it might give a number that it was the 31 progenitors, the ancestors of the 31 Malachim who were defeated by the Jews when they came into Canaan after they exited Mitzrayim. So listen to this. Sarah nursed all 31 or however many, I haven't seen the Medrash for many years. She nursed them. Why is that important? Why should a tzaddikus give from her milk to these lowlifes? The Canaanites, the lowest of the low, Kemaisa Kanani. If you do that, Vatoki Oretz Eschem. Why was she giving them milk? This is tzaddikus. Remember the Gemara by Moshe? The Chazal report us the Gemara. Pesha Osid Litin as HaTorah should nurse from a non-Jewish source. So they brought the Meinekas, they brought Yocheved. Here Sarah is giving to the non-Jews milk. What's going on? I would like to suggest to you, and that's the reason I mentioned the Chasam Sofer, that just like Shimshon HaGibor was able to remove the Agnus and weaken the enemy of the Jews, Orpha, whose progeny, Goliath, threatened the very existence of Klal Yisrael with Kabbalas HaTorah and with Yerushalaim of Shema. So too Sarah set the stage for all of history, for all of Jewish children's enemies, for all the doros. She weakened them through the exchange of milk by taking out from them a certain koyach. It was a reverse type situation, just like Shimshon gave seed, if you will, into Arpha, but made it to Harpha and took away the Agnes. What would that have to do with Hanukkah? It's possible that one of those recipients of Sarah's milk, who was ultimately diminished by Sarah, might have somehow had some shaykhus or been actually the grandson or something like that of Yavan. So an additional dimension of the fact that Hanukkah, with this we conclude, is Chodesh Shabbos Milah, and that verily the Rebbe Kito brings down the Medrash Hanukkah that the women stood on the ramparts of Yerushalaim, gemalit their kids, and jumped to their deaths when there was a gezerah by the Greeks to Yavanim against Milah. Because the Greeks went to the homosexual ethic, as history shows, for those who were here for the last two drushes. We discussed that briefly. The word pedophilia, knock it into your computer if you have a header for the internet, and you'll see it's all Greek, etc. And that's exactly what they were doing with the gymnasia and getting the Jews into doing the defeat of the Greeks, the defeat of that, of the Shmutz. But it has to do also with the koyach of women. The women put in a koyach. Sarah plays her role in every milah. You hear? Sarah plays her role in every milah. The concept of the cholav. And thus I would suggest it's very homiletic, it's very much a drush, but I think you can say it, it's roila halois nal shulchan malachim. I'm a little biased. So after every milah, what happens? Since time immemorial, they take the baby shortly after and they give it to the Jewish mother to nurse the baby. That deed of the Jewish mother nursing the baby, remaining the baby. Remember, a milah is machshur a child to learn Torah. As I state in Chazal, there's two bris. There's the bris of the pair for Torah, and there's the bris milah, and they're both connected. Rabbi Yochanan says a certain pasuk in Mishpatim is brisi, karti, whatever the pasuk is, refers to both things. Tell you in this, the bris milah is machshir you, but it's not just the bris milah as it's done on the child. The mother has a tremendous koyach in that also. She makes an individual geula for the child, if you will, through her cholam. And that's why the Bnei Yissaschar and others say that every single geula starts, the geula starts with women. Whether it was Nashim Tzidkanius Mitzrayim, the prototype, whether it was Esther and Purim, whether it was Yehudis, etc., and the Nashim Tzidkanius and Chanukah. And that's another reason why you have milk on Chanukah. Moving from that, I'm going to start my discussion this evening, and we're more limited in time. I'm going to get myself perhaps in a lot of trouble, because I'm going to say something so frank that nobody ever talks like this. And a person who I respect very much earlier tonight said, Yehuda, do not discuss this, stay away from it. They're not going to understand, it's going to cause criticism. And I said, what can I do? I'm 56 years old already, and I just don't care. For those of you who might come from Flatbush, there's a guy, a Blue Ribbon on Avenue J, a huge food store that everybody goes to at the last minute. And it's owned by Eddie Mantell. And Eddie Mantell, a half an hour before they close, or 40 minutes before they close, he starts to lower the prices on the fruit and stuff that he can't sell. And he knows that after Shabbos is going to spoil. See, he goes like this. I mean, the guy makes a fortune. He's a multi-millionaire. And he charges a good price for the fruits the whole week. He's not exactly going broke. But he always says the same rate Erev Shabbos. I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I'm giving it away. I'm losing. I don't care. I just don't care anymore. Just take it. I'm giving it away. And that's the feeling that I have now. The reason that after all these years of trying other things, I just don't care anymore. It's sickening. It's bomai of enough. I'm just going to say like this. You don't want to do a shidduch with me? Don't do a shidduch with me. I'm married. I'm managing to marry off my kids. You can't threaten me. You can't put me in chayim. I don't care. I'm doing what my Rebbe's taught me. And we're now coming to ground zero, where I'm coming and I'm taking it straight to the B'nai Torah, the next generation. I'm going to do the same thing in Lakewood in the next couple of months. And we're going to get the word out there. And for those who have a head for the internet, and I can discuss what that means, and it is a touchy subject, then the websites to see what I have to say, the main website is called thefearkashas.com, where I put my radio programs and I video this stuff. You have archived tens and maybe over 100 hours of stuff, and 30 or 40 hours of video stuff. And I'm going to continue to do that in Hashem. And then we have RabbiLevin.com, where you have the latest appearances on television, stuff that's happening in newspapers, and other stuff that I'm doing. There's going to be a fascinating video that's going to go up in a week or two after I get back to America, maybe 3. I stood in front of the center, the epicenter of Tumah in New York, the Gay Community Center. I stood right outside there, and I spoke about violence against gays and different things, and it's a fascinating video. The transcript of it is, I think, is already up on the site. Then we have a site called God Reign Over Us, R-E-I-G-N, Over Us, which is also the name of my YouTube channel. And on the site God Reign Over Us, there's a fascinating slideshow video. It's absolutely unbelievable. I had a mice with Rabbbi Miller around 23 or 24 years ago, Rabbbi Miller Zitzal, which I told him that there was anti-Semitism throughout the South. There was a huge, huge drought. And they were starting to say all the way to New York. In the Daily News, I saw a letter to the editor that the Jewish bankers are repossessing the farms because there was no rain. So Rabbbi Miller said, so what do you want to do? I said, Rebbe, I want to go down there. So Columbia, South Carolina, I want to take a talis in the shofar. I want to do a rain prayer like the Chazal did, something like that, similarly, to show Imay Anochi B'tzorah to people in the South. I never talked about this for all the years, but Lemaisi, the fact is, I show them this slideshow on God Reign Over Us. If you go to the slideshow, there's a video slideshow. The first one, not the one I did in Atlanta. That was based on what I did 27 years ago, 23 years ago, whatever, in Columbia, South Carolina. And bottom line, I show you the meteorological records that there was a drought on Thursday when I was there. The newspaper reported on the drought on Friday, and by Monday they declared the drought over. I was like, oh, crazy Levin, he's nuts, he's delusional. But I'm not. This is exactly what happened. The reason it happened is because my Rebbe gave me samchus to go do this, and it was a Kiddush Hashem. On Saturday in the New York Post, the media, it had gone like throughout the United States. They showed a picture of me with a talis in the shofar like this, and they said, he's hoping to blow up a storm. And Lamai said it worked. Anyway, so it's a fascinating thing, and there's some other interesting stuff on there. We have a website that's from older stuff called ishyehudi.com. It's directed towards the Haredi community. Very interesting stuff. So here's the very controversial thing I'm going to say. I want to talk a little bit tonight about something called tznius. And we all think we know about tznius. Tznius basically means that a lady is supposed to cover her until over here, she's supposed to cover her until a few inches below there, then when she sits down, and it shouldn't be too tight, and the shadel shouldn't be too crazy, and if so, presto. That's tznius, it's all done. It's a done deal. What's the big thing to discuss about it? Last Shabbos I was walking from Shmuel Hanavi to Beis Yisrael 15 minutes before Shkia to try to get a minyan for Mincha, to catch Mincha before Shkia. I walked up Rehov Rappaport. On Rehov Rappaport, there were at least 4 or 5 Haredi ladies, Ashkenazi, walking there, very nicely dressed, hair covered with those black tichlach, pushing wheel carriages, a little talking to themselves. This is a time where all the late goers in Yerushalaim in this area are running back and forth in Rappaport, either to get the last minyan or to go back wherever they're going to wash before Shkia or a minute or two after Shkia. I'm asking you a question when you think about it. The lady is dressed, like Mother Teresa, Aleha HaShalom. Does she belong walking on that street with Rehov Rappaport when anybody who lives in the neighborhood knows that literally 100 or more men are going to be traversing there back and forth? Is that tznius for Metzias? Tznius means, there's a Gemara, I forget which Tana, had a beautiful daughter, and he prayed for his daughter to drop dead because she was drop dead beautiful. Again, let me say it slowly so you get it. He prayed for his daughter to drop dead because she was drop dead beautiful. See, he said rather than her being nichshel anoshim, shuvi le'offer, whatever he said, that's it. Finish business. What kind of extremism, what kind of a business? Let them not look. God created her that way. What kind of a business is this? Now let's fast forward a few thousand years. What?
Tanagamont.
I can't hear.
Tanagamont.
Tanagamont what?
Gamont.
Okay, so the Tanagamont. But the Tanagamont, but wait a second. But this made its way into the Gemara for a reason. Every time somebody did something that a Tana did, it didn't get headlines in the Gemara. Just like, to get back to our first of our Torah, by the way, Cholav is an unbelievable thing. It makes itself into the Shulchan Aruch. How many minhagim do? Wait, we'll with the next. How many minhagim don't get into the Shulchan Aruch? The minhag of Cholav is mentioned 3 times in the Shulchan Aruch. And all the times I think by the Ramah. Once by Shavuos, by Cholav. Once by Chanukah, it says by Cholav. And here's the 3rd time. The 3rd time it doesn't say the famous Cholav, but it's a deal. It says you're not allowed, according to the Ramah, you're not allowed to eat in 9 days. It's a fact that you're not allowed to eat Cholav. Why do you eat Cholav in 9 days? Because it's Cholav, because it's a Sam would bin. Shiva also becomes the Chet HaEidah. Who did not sin in the Chet HaEidah? The women. And what is Tisha B'Av? The Chet HaMeraglim. Who did not sin in the Chet HaMeraglim? The women. So who are going to be those who bring us to the final Geula? The women. So when we eat challah during the nadir, the lowest period of time, it's also a schus with Bavarnim, the schus of Bishul Nashim, Tzitkanis, Nikolum, Mitzrayim, and Katas, the Kavan, L'Kavar. Let me move further with your question. I started to give you an answer. I explained to you that whether he's mund or not, in other words, that extreme level of conduct is inappropriate, but the Gemara is certainly teaching us how important it is for women and their husbands to understand that tznius is far more than just the clothing type.
Maybe the Gemara trying to bring out that there's 2 harsh on the daughter. That's the Gemara about the
Yeah, if you're on a lib, that's exactly how you explain it. That's the kind of the Jews who went to the seminary. Now, let me tell you another story. Pardon? What did you say?
Women or something.
Wait a second. Let's speed up 2,000 years to around roughly 100 years ago. Pesach, what was his name? The Maharil Diskin, Rabbi Yeshua Diskin had a son, Yitzchak Yerucham. Now I heard this, I don't know, maybe it's not true, maybe it is, it's something that should be researched, I don't know, but this is the story I heard. I heard that Rabbi Yitzchak Yerucham Diskin had a very attractive daughter, and she was attracting people, and she was starting to go a little bit with the Kavas because of her good looks, And I heard that he was in a spot that she should pass away, because he said better she should pass away now than that she should be mashal others and be mashal herself. A far more recent story. There's a famous story of the daughter of the Tana who heard the Romans say how nice her psias were. So how nice that thing, and the way she walked a little bit more this and that. If I'm correct, it was the daughter of Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol. Am I wrong? Am I making a mistake? Was she the same daughter? Was she the same woman? I'm not sure. Who ultimately the two slave masters brought the two of them to, and at the end of the night they both finished with it. It was the same girl. I'm not sure. Was it the same girl? What? Was it the same girl? It was. A fascinating insight into Tznius. In other words, because she did this in part, I mean, at the end, they died out Kiddush Hashem, Rabbi side. I think it's the Vilna going. I didn't bring my sforim here from America. I have 2 shiurim. I gave an agudah of Avenue L. They have a Thursday night Shalom program, and I spoke about Tznius. It's on Kol HaLashon. I wouldn't even know how to get to it. And I give all the source material. Rabbi side. Tznius means a lot of different things, but it's far more than the clothing. And by the way, and I'm telling you this for a reason, because you're all future husbands, hopefully in the not so distant future, and you're all going to either you are or going to go out and date. So I want to share something with you from the perspective of a 56-year-old man. I'm telling you a fact now that I've heard from young men. Everybody wants to feel that when they did a shidduch, that the girl they're going out with is a looker, she's highly attractive, and they feel intrinsically that it reflects somehow on them. In other words, if she's not a number 7.5 at least, I mean, how could I get engaged? What is this shman going to say and that one's going to say? So listen carefully, because this is emphasis of the Yemita. It's not that much that we really need at that level. It's more, what's Yem going to say, and my ego, and my self-esteem. I want you to know it's a shtus. Think about it. Let's just think about it slowly. And a narishkeit, when it's taken to an extreme. I want to play this out with you a little. The guy gets the knockout. He gets the real good looker. Let me tell you what he's got for himself. This is killing me. He's got for himself that for the next 30 or 40 years, or whatever it is, how many years God's blessed them with, that his wife is going to be a looker. So if he's gotten used to it, he's proud, and everybody tells him, and everything else, all the people that are going to be over in the next X amount of years, his stock was with his wife. With his wife. And how, because she's, I'm missing the word, but she's like, I forget the word, there's a word for it, not across the word, like a showpiece sort of. So therefore, what's going to happen? Somebody told me, a very good friend of mine, a very good what?
On display.
Yeah, right. A very smart person told me like this. He said, Yehuda, the shmooze they give to the ladies about tznius don't help. I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He says, listen. He said that the fat, unattractive ladies who sit in the front at these shmoozen are always ready to be macabre, all the chumras of tznius and everything else. They get it. He said, but the lookers, they don't, it doesn't apply to them. They don't have to do it. He says, the ones it's meant for, you understand, the ones who don't need it so much, they're the ones who are macabre. Now it's a little sarcastic, it's a little sharp, and I think there might be more than a little element in it. Listen to me. I'm just trying to explain to you. I'm just trying to explain to you. There's a guy who's a Russian, he's still around. Alta Terra. His name is Jimmy Carter. He shows us what a Gentile, a Mulligan Gentile is. I remember Jimmy Carter way before Jimmy Carter. I go so far back that John F. Kennedy was killed on November 22nd, 1963. It was the day of my English birthday. I was sitting and getting a barber chair in the main street, and the FM, light FM was playing classical type music, and I interrupted in Texas to say Kennedy was shot. So I remember Mom back to Kennedy. I remember a little after Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson became the president, I remember Zelaya, and he signed the omnibus civil rights bill. I'm getting off the subject, but I'll come back to what I'm talking about. The Civil Rights Bill of 1964, signed by Lyndon Johnson, and I'm telling you something, that in 1964, when I was in the 4th grade, at 9 years old, Mrs. Kepler's class, if you saw a black man or a white man and a black with a black woman or a white woman, you saw an interracial couple holding hands. It did not exist, I'm telling you this, you did not see this on the streets of New York. Within 3 or 4 years after the Civil Rights Bill, what happened was Star Trek? I forget what show it was with Captain Kirk and the Enterprise, was the first one to have a black lady appear on the TV program. I'm telling you. What happens is legislation affects morality and standards. That's why we fight so much against legislation for schmutz and everything else. It changes the way people think. Let me move back to the sneeze thing. The point is as follows. When a person has an above average, good-looking wife, he has a tremendous, both of them have a much higher apparatus in the Indian of sneers. Because people are going to look at her, and chances are, because she's an attractive girl, she's going to want nicer clothing, nicer perfume, nicer cosmetics, etc., etc. She's going to get into it more. The one who's not so attractive, and at a much earlier age, certainly shortly after she does her shidduch, usually comes to the conclusion, like, I want to ask you something. I want to ask you a question. What do women put on perfume and cosmetics and nice jewelry? What do they put it on for? Especially if they do, because they have to get married. Fine, but after they're married, why is there this thing about the chasnas and everything else? That they all get dolled up? Is Mrs. Yankovic getting all dolled up to show Mrs. Chaimovitz? Oh, what's that perfume you're wearing? Who is she doing it for, L'Man Hashem? I want to know who she's doing it for. What? 1 second. What other people? The other ladies? Excuse me for saying this. Is she a lesbian, L'Man Hashem? Why is a married woman getting all dolled up at a chasna with cosmetics and I'm going to
see him while we dress up.
What?
We're going to see him while we dress up.
We're going to see him. What?
We're going to dress up.
Again. Wait a second. Excuse me, it's the Beferish Chazal. I leave it to you one. It's the Beferish Chazal that say that women are supposed to do these things, and when whoever was Hillel, whoever made the takana of Roiflim peddlers who go and sell cosmetics, it was specifically for the husband. It says on Chazal to endear, or whatever the Lashon is, she shouldn't become. The husband shouldn't walk in, and she should be disheveled and everything else, and she should be unattracted to us. Say, he'll go and be overvoiced or assumed somewhere else in foreign fields. It's a Beferish Chazal. If you look at any svarim on sneers, and if you hear what they are ostensibly telling the ladies, I'm telling you, this whole thing, it's a huge corruption. What goes on at the Simchas, I'm telling you. You know how many people on this show, and let's play this out a little so we should be honest and understand. Because we're still in, most of you would say, so we're still in the pre-marriage situation. And you could say to someone, it's not only, listen to me, Rabbi Avigdor says clearly, listen, every time a man looks at a woman, and stops to look at her because of the way she's positioned, dressed, the place that she is. The man will go to hell for and the woman will go to the same hell for every single time. This is not heard by the women often enough. Listen to me, my dear friends. I want to tell you a fascinating story that happened in the last month. Listen. This is the Orange County, upstate New York, Right to Life Party. Religious people, Goyim, Gentiles, mostly Catholics, not all. Listen to this. There's a guy named Clay Boone. They're very close to Monroe. There's a guy named Clay Boone. For 3 years, he's been after me to come speak at their Right to Life annual dinner. I say, Clay, I can't do it on a Saturday. Finally, a year ago, he says, Rabbi, we're going to do it for you on Sunday. That's how much we want you to come up. Come up Sunday. I came up Sunday, I think right before the elections. I told Clay Boone, a year before that, I said, listen here. I'm going to speak at dinner, and then I'm going to sleep overnight in that area. In any Christian school that you have, Christian school, you line up 3 of them, I come on my own bill, gratis, to speak to your Christian students. I said I prefer high school students. If you have a Catholic school, you have an evangelical school, I'll speak. As many as you want up for the day. I said, if you make press conferences, if you get me a local radio, whatever you do, I'm yours for free, I'm being pathetic. They managed to get one school. One closed the last year, the Catholics didn't answer the phone, whatever it was. I walked in to a Christian school of boys and girls from the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. I walked into the ulam. The man who's introducing me says, he makes an announcement. I want to tell you what he said. And I will have a video of this eventually in the next couple of weeks up on one of my sites. He says like this. He says, the 8th grade girls should know the dresses that they're wearing are too tight. You can cause other people to look at you. And it's terrible, and it's not acceptable here. And Rabbi Levin is going to speak to you a lot more about modesty than I want to say. We live in a vacuum in a cocoon, and we don't realize the young quotient. You have no idea, not you, not your parents, not your rabbonim, not your rebbes, you have no idea what's going on there by the Gentiles. I could sit here for 5 hours and tell you things about their fight for midas and for morality and decency. Do you know that they are makil kehilos, sometimes stadiums with 5 or 10,000 Gentile kids who make shvuas not to become intimately active with each other. And even those who were nifshal, they call it secondary virginity. And they make pledges. You have no idea. Now, why am I telling you this? I'll tell you why. If you read the book of Yonah, which you read in Kippur, maybe you'll understand a little. That Yonah was willing to throw himself into the sea, not to create a kitrug, that Nineveh they should do tshuva and show up the Jews. We really think we've arrived in Kedusha and Sneas. You have no idea. I remember, close to 30 years ago, a black lady who worked for the Heritage Foundation. I'll tell you her name, Eileen Gardner. She was in charge of education at the Heritage Foundation. It still exists today. Listen to a conversation. Talking like this. She either said to me, or she understood that before a husband and wife are intimate to have children, you can't look at a television set. Going back now close to 30 years, 27 years. You can't look at a television set and see some kind of a cluster program. Because how can your father and mother kids like this? Goy, I could tell you the story after the story. We are sinking so low. And there are millions of Gentiles that understand things that I was here Thursday night debating with people, that they understand. The Olim, our Olim doesn't even get it. By the way, a lot of people, it's only the Olim. We have no idea it's only the Olim. And I want to tell you something else. We say, with money. So there's a famous joke from the comedian Jack Benny, who was a very famous Jewish comedian. And it goes like this. Ganav comes over to him. Your money or your life? No, he says, stick him up. Your money or your life? Benny just stands there. I said, stick him up, your money or your life? He keeps quiet. The third time he says, stick him up, your money or your life? He's getting angry. So Benny says, I'm thinking. He's such a kargachaya, you understand? That's always a joke. He couldn't lift his hand to his pocket. What was that joke? That's a hezber of B'chol Mo'idecha. The Gemara says that. Sometimes it's harder for a person to give out his money than it is for him to give up his life. I'm explaining to you. These goyim, they dig deep into their pockets. They're not wealthy, and they give money to fight for morality and decency. Some give tens of dollars, some give hundreds, and some give thousands. I'm talking about not rich people. It's all a picture on us. We're potter. We know. We've arrived. You know how I define the difference between an Orthodox Jew, a Haredi, or an Orthodox Jew who's a Mizrahi? I say that the Mizrahi person, wherever they are, modern Orthos, they think they've arrived. They have the simplicity between power and their Eretz. They know exactly what to do. They've got their life all set up, etc., etc. And the Haredi is really never satisfied. The real Haredi Orthodox is a person who's saying, I haven't arrived. I want to be better. I've got a lot more steiging to do. I've got a lot more learning to do. And I've got a lot more chumras to do, etc., etc. So the Haredi guy is the guy who says, listen, I'm not holding by my wife shaving her head and putting on a tichel, but I respect the person to the right of me who is doing that kind of thing. I appreciate that. It makes sense to me. Even if I can't do it, I understand. An additional zehirus in an Indian of tzlius, a squelching of whatever you want to call it, drive, hedonism, materialism, gashmias. Rabbi say, let me get back to that tzlius thing with the wife and the girl. Everybody should know. And I'm telling you, it's a huge problem today. Part of the problem is like this. The girls have gone to Beis Yaakov. They know halacha a lot of times in many areas better than the men do. They get all kinds of stuff in classes on tznius. So just like when all of a sudden there's some kind of a question early on in the marriage, a lot of times there are a high question they're going to know because they learned it. If they're here in seminary, they used to be a Rabbi Nadav, and they learned Shmir Shabbos Kil Chasa. And a lot of times they know better. And that also gives them, if I know better in Orach Chaim and everything else, he said, you're going to tell me about tznius? That's my department. I heard halachas for years and everything else. But you know, one of the things that the girl does not know, and I don't believe they teach them at the Beis Yaakov, they don't really teach them, first of all, how the man works, how our mechanism works, and what triggers us as men. If there's a Maisa that everybody knows and has heard, with the Chavetz Chaim and the father who brings in a 4-year-old girl into the room, and the Chavetz Chaim starts screaming, what do you think we're malachim? What kind of a chutzpah is this and that? Excuse me the way I'm saying, it's just to dramatize it. Chavetz Chaim was a 30-year-old man interested in 4-year-old girls, how what the size of their dresses and something like that. That's why he was screaming. Chas v'shalom. The Chavetz Chaim was giving us a lesson in Torah. He was telling us, just like the story They came to the whoever it was, the Gedolim, and says, my kid's a month old, and how should I raise him? You're a month late. Just like the Chazonish, whoever it is, that says from the earliest time that the son is born, you should wash Nagelweiss on the kid. It all starts at a phenomenally young age. And the Chofetz Chaim also wanted to tell us, excuse me for saying this, there are all kinds of men in this world. And some of these men, rather, get turned on even by prepubescent children. Aside from everything else, another dimension is you don't want to be goyim that anyone should have any hirur because of your female relative. But I'm explaining to you, Rabbi Isai, listen. If you start out in your dating situation being realistic and really making a reckoning, what price am I going to pay for the girl who puts on that extra amount of schmeckachs, that extra amount of cosmetics? And by the way, I believe that 90% of Haredi women, I don't care if they're yeshivas, ultra yeshivas, kollel, wives of rabbanim, and even Rosh yeshivas, Rebbeisha families, I say that 90% of Haredi women can really upgrade in slius. Whether it's in the essence of the dressing, cosmetics, jewelry, whether it's in how they walk or where they walk or how they talk in public. They had signs hanging here in Meir Shem a year and a half ago, signed by Rav Vosner, about a woman shouldn't use a telephone on a bus. Think of, but are we from Mars here when we're saying these things? When a woman is chattering on a bus, or when a woman is going somewhere and giggling aloud or chatting with her friends, and a guy is walking down the street, even a front person, automatically they look for a second. You would just marshal a person that is looking. Might not be stockless, we can declare how it is and that. You'll take out the safer Torah size stockless. When a woman wears a dress, and let's say it's totally a top, it's totally loose enough, which 75% of women have no hasaga of what's tight and what's loose. I don't care what you say. It's totally loose. It's baggy like anything. Here, listen. But over here it says something. Camp Nagila, whatever the heck it says. I don't care what it says. It says be from, learn more Torah, go to Mishmar. They're being machshel people, idiots. What are you, a walking sign machine? When somebody has like sprinkles of jewelry, anything, don't you understand? On the back. If the earrings are a little too long. The fact is, what women are not explained, I don't believe, in sneeze classes and everything, is exactly how easy it is to attract at least a fleeting look or a fleeting glance by a person. And maybe more. And maybe more. Is that what you want your wife, your daughter, your sister to be doing to people? My friends, 25 years ago, a very devout Catholic professor brought me in to his college class in downtown Manhattan, or Brooklyn. And he wanted me to speak to them. Coming with my beard, my black hat, this and that. These are Italian boys. Hey, what am I supposed to say to them? He wanted me to talk to them about these Indianos. Listen to what I said. Walking to the class. I said, I know, I'm from Mars. I'm a 16th century witch burner. I'm nuts. But I want to ask you a question. You guys are normal. I want to ask you a question. Just try to explain it to me. Explain it to me so I should understand it. Tell me something. You want to do such and such with your friend Tommy's sister, right? Admit it. Let's talk straight. You want to do such and such with your friend Tommy's sister. I said, yeah. I I said, tell me, please raise your hands, explain to me. How many of you have sisters here? 8 people raise their hands. Do you allow Tommy to do it with your sister? All of a sudden there's quiet. All of a sudden they understand. They understand. I'm explaining to you. A little bit of thought. What kind of an idiot of us is so insecure that to have that token showpiece, that when he gets engaged and they come to divorce, they can all take looks because it's an Indian of, what do you call it, L'chavava al bailo. We have to check her out. And then we have to give him a report how he did. And he needs that desperately. And then, how many chassanim go shopping with their collars for the trousseau, for the stuff thing they were married? And he's showing a big bal eitzah on what she should wear. I mean, he's a big mumcha, and that's his job. But she's only getting dressed up for ladies, in the ladies section. You could do better than that. Can you try that on? I'll wait outside. You go and try it on. Come out and show me. I'm very firm. I don't go into the ladies' store. Just come outside and show me. I want to see how the dress looks. Hannah, can you turn around, please? What? What is this about, Rabbi Sai? What's going on with us? This is what Kedusha and Tznius is all about. Really? I want to tell you something. Someday you're going to be fathers and mothers. And if you think that you're going to have siyata d'shmaya, that your kids are going to be nizhar, if that's what you went after, that's what you got engaged to, that's what you shonu rishonim about. You're a big hacker, you have to be involved. On the other hand, if you say to her, listen, we really want to have a house that the holiest thing we're concerned with our kids. Put an extra inch more around the protruding areas. They're for me, it's not for the world. I don't want you to be martial people. And because of this, we're going to have 100, 1,000,000 times more siyata d'shmaya in the kedusha of our bias. Who tells people these things? Maybe they do. I haven't heard it. This is what I heard. A famous mashgiach for one of the yeshivas in New York, big chassan and collar advisor, is called up by a couple. Rebbe, something's wrong. Excuse me for talking like this, and I don't care. If I convince one person that this shouldn't happen, it's already kedai. He's called up by his Rebbe. He calls his Rebbe up, the big expert. Rabbi P, the big expert. He says, I'm having a problem in Ishus with my wife. Something's wrong. You know what he told him? I can't believe it. It's Das Torah. There's a schmutz called Victoria's Secret, where the ladies press the garments. He says you should both look and figure out which are the good garments. You shouldn't have. That's what you tell a person in Shana Rishayna? So what are you going to tell him in Shana Shlishi? Should be watching pornography? This is the Das Torah. This is the advice today. I don't know what the advice of that person is. I don't know what their problem was. But that's not the advice. We're sick. I'm telling you, Rabbi Sai. Nobody talks about it. It's like the big monster in the room and nobody says a word about it. Think about it. The Vilna Gaon says, the lady's way into Olam Haba is based on her tznius. This is it. This is the beginning and the end all. And this is what tznius means. This is what tznius means. Tznius is a lot more than the clothing. By the way, think about it. Rabbi say, think about it. Let's say she's covered from head to toe and everything else. Rabbi say, she is covered from head to toe. The measurements are great. She is wearing a white, billowing skirt, pure white. And she's wearing a black top with some kind of embroidery. When she's a block down and she's wearing that white skirt, from a block away, the white skirt's going to attach attention. That's not tznius. It's just not. Things of colors or symmetry that's going to attract attention is absolutely verboten. I don't care what anybody says. If it attracts attention, that's the color test, that's the smell test. If it attracts attention, I mean, there are chazal on this, about the people, the women, I forget the pasuk in Eicha, whatever it is, that their psiyas, the way they walk, they used to walk in a certain way that there was a click-clack. You hear? This is chazal in Medrash Eicha, click-clack from the way they walk with their shoes. The chazal say, it attracted the attention of the men, and they go into hell, and it contributed to the churban of Yerushalaim because of this, because of these B'nai Tzion who were clickety-clacketing. Then there were other ones who had, they had like this, they had a little perfume thing in their heels, and when they would step a certain way, it would let out the perfume, so it would pierce the Bachrim. This is a chazal. And they would knock. You think it makes a difference in chazal whether they had the shmekachs by the heels of their feet and they attracted the Bachrim, or if they had it over here, whatever they do with it and they attracted the Bachrim? There is no heta in the world. There's no heta in the world. And the reason I told you the story of the Gentile that I presented to that class, do you want somebody doing it to your sister, is because I want you to think like that. Is that what I want? I want my wife, my kala, whatever it is, to be attracting other people. That's what I want. And if you're stupid enough to want it at 22, 23, 24, believe me, you'll be plotting at 32 or 33 when you're in for 3 kids. And when she is, what do you mean? This is the way, this was... You see, I'm very good at this, I'll tell you. My father was a principal in the Yeshiva of Queens. And when everybody was getting bar mitzvah there, they were going to hotels for Shabbos weekends. I was asked by my parents, where do you want to have your bar mitzvah? It was November of 1967. Where do you want to have your bar mitzvah? I said, I want to have it in the Chavetz Chaim Forest Hills in the Beis Medrash on paper plates. I didn't give a darn from the earliest days. It was mamish in my head. The jacket that I was wearing to all those bar mitzvah weekends for these fancy Queens people was an olive drab green jacket that was taken out of the bazaar box of Yeshiva Tveres Moshe. It cost $5 or something like that. I was proud of it then, I'm proud of it now. Let me tell you about my bedroom set. I got a bedroom set from my great uncle 30 years ago when I came back from Eretz Yisrael. It must have been 30 years old. So my bedroom set today is like 60 years old. Let me tell you about my dining room set. When I was 12 years old, my parents bought a used dining room set. The bureau, the thing, and the table. Come to my house today, and I'll show you the same dining room set. What about the chairs? The chairs, I had them. They didn't make it. So a Gentile, a goy, who runs crisis pregnancy centers to save people from aborting their babies, he came once to my house and he saw my chairs. He said, I got this donation of these chairs, and he brought me the donation of the chairs. That's my chairs. The only thing we got new in my house in 31 or 32 years was the high-riser bunk beds we needed for the kids, right? Some mattresses. Even most of my bookshelves. A grusha, when she finished with her bookshelves, so she knew the place to deposit it is by Yehuda Levin's house. I don't give a darn. I laugh at all these people who are in prison. You have to have that. I'm not a tzaddik. Listen to me. You guys are bigger lamdonim than me. You're bigger bali chesed than me. You understand? I'm not saying that I'm any of these things. You're bigger bali halacha than me. But I'll tell you what I am. I'm the world's expert on the morality thing because I have 30 years experience, 20 years of it with Shimush. I'm pretty on target with the tzniya stuff. And I, honest to God, am pretty much not into bugs. I just want to have enough to get by. The rest is shtusim. And because of that, I could see things a little bit more clearly. Now listen, we don't have self-esteem. The Haredi world are such wimps and such low self-esteem. I'll give you an example. The Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, the blacks, the Irish Catholics, the Italians, none of them, I promise, None of them handful and lick the politicians like the Haimis do, we authors. The Rebbes, the beautiful tables with the dishes of fruit. And come in. Go on the video. Go if you have a head of the internet. And if you only go for this, I'll take it on my responsibility. If you never look at the internet again, you only look for this, I'll take the achrayas in your Gehenim. If you just go look how the Pupa Rebbe, the Satmar Rebbe, and the Wiener Ruv in the last election, everything Mario, Andrew Comer, everything he's saying is so intelligent. They're looking, that pasted on smart, and all the way down the row with the big fancy, all of the sycophants, that's a fancy word for Chanfanim are looking. Nobody does this. Nobody does this. It says in my Torah, Lo yisov guru b'fnei ish. Rabbi Levin speaks about Hanifa l'Rishon. For years, Chuck Schumer comes in, Senator Schumer, and he just commandeers this 1,500 people in the grand ballroom in Manhattan, the agudah dinner. He commandeers the mic. He says what he wants to say. They give him applause. This Russia Marusha, arrogant Chil Hashem Jew boy. You know what happened this past year in May? His clone, his little clone, Anthony Weiner, the congressman, is running for mayor of New York. Anthony Weiner now came in and commandeered the microphone also. In front of all the quote-unquote Gedolim, the Askonim, the creme de la creme of Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Hutner, who was nifta around 30 years ago, when it was a different world, would not allow a politician to come into the Chaim Berlin dinner and get any recognition to stand up there and speak to the people. But I'm explaining to you, we have low self-esteem. He can do for us. Hakaras Atayv. We owe him. Let me explain to you. A politician is like a dog. He growls. But if you take the dog and you give him a schmeiss with a stick, or you throw something at him, or you even scream at the dog, a lot of the dogs are going to start to back up and cower and whimper. It's a fact. So how do I know what I'm talking about? Because in 1984, I ran for Congress against a powerful congressman named Stephen Solars. The guy was being talked about. If Mondale had beaten Reagan in '84, Mondale was said that he was going to appoint this guy Solars to be Secretary of State. He spent $225,000 in 1984 dollars. I spent zero, but people around me spent $30,000 Gentiles. And I got 35% of the vote. I would have got 40% of the vote if a certain thing wouldn't happen. I don't have time to discuss it. But here's the deal. One of the reasons I ran against Solos was because he was a sponsor of a national gay rights bill. After I ran against him, despite the fact that all of the bureaucracies, Agudah Yisrael, Satmar, Bob, all of the tzaddikim look, all said, why this? Vote for Solars. Levin doesn't have a chance, and it's all about winning. That's a new thing. It's like the Gentile, his thing is who's going to win the soccer match or the baseball game. The Orthodox Haredi is anything better? You know the inordinate amount of time that these people in Borough Park and Wiesback spend on politics? Sick! Aber man wird sich nicht gewinnen. Why should I waste a vote? And tell me, and I asked them, tell me, if the guy would punch your wife or mother in the face, kick her and pull off her sheitel. That's guy number one. The next day a second guy does it. And then they come to you from agudah or Satmar, and they tell you, the Gedolim said you have to vote for this one, you have to support this one. Would you vote for them? They kicked your wife in the face. Of course not. So if they kick your God in the face, they're making things that brought a marvel to the world, that cause a destruction, then you're going to vote for them? Like, what's going on? Where's our thought process? We're an automatic pilot. We don't even think. And we have low self-esteem in the way we chabad these politicians. What happened to Lo Yisaguru B'fnei Ish? You're not allowed to show fear. What happened to that? Here's a question that I asked Rabbi Yisrael, and he never answered me. Now, the greatest respect, and for those who were here for the last, on Thursday night, I spoke very frankly about Anoshim Gedolim. And then I found out, I was told afterwards, that some of the grandchildren of these Gedolim were actually in the room. And I felt very, very bad because I don't know if people got my message. I'm not trying to put down Anoshim Gedolim Ma'od, Chashav Rosh Yeshivas, etc. I'm just trying to say it's an absolute mistake to think that every person who's a Rosh Yeshiva, no matter what organization he belongs to or who calls him what, automatically has a gift from God of Das Torah, that in some supernatural way, without studying the issue carefully in all of its ramifications, in all of its facets and aspects, that person knows what's going on. And that was the point I want to make. It's not to insult anybody. And also, if you do Sha'al Avicha V'yagetcha, Zikanecha V'yomulach, and they are not V'yagetcha, and they are not V'yomulach satisfactory, then there's a problem. And here's a Maisa from Rav Zelig Epstein, the late great Rosh Yeshiva of Shari Torah in Queens. Talmud Muvik of Rav Shimon Shkop Megrodna, lived in the last 2 or 3 years. He was telling over Talmidim stories. I was told that a fellow who was learning here until recently, Chesky Moskowitz, knows the story firsthand. You heard it from Rav Epstein when he was in Shari Torah, that's what I was told. And he was telling about World War II, and Reb Chaim Oizer told this person to do this, and he listened this one to do that, and he didn't listen this one to do the other thing, this one to do the fifth thing. And some people didn't listen. And I asked Rabbi Epstein, what do you mean, Reb Chaim Oizer? He told them not to leave, to go here, to do this, and he didn't listen. How could that be? Das Torah. Reb Epstein, the way I heard the story, is alleged to have said that was before they invented this concept in America of what's Das Torah. You understand what Rabbi Epstein was saying? Let me give you another story to make it a little clearer. There was a Yid by the name of Rav Aaron Kotler. Rav Aaron Kotler had a Talmud Mufik in Kletsk who came from America. His name was Rabbi Gedalia Shore. Rabbi Gedalia Shore's parents in America were reading the news and hearing the news on the radio in America. The clouds of World War II. I can't tell you what year it is, but I can tell you that they sent messages, letters to Rabbi Gedalia Shore. They said, you learned enough in Europe. It's a tinderbox, it's a sakona. Get out of Europe. We're telling you, Kibbutz of aim, come home. Rabbi Gedalia Shore went over to his Rebbe, the Yeshiva Rav Aaron. Rav Aaron told him, don't leave. There won't be a problem. Don't leave. Don't listen to your parents. Rabbi Gedalia Shore was nervous. He tried to contact the Imre Emes by letter or whatever. He couldn't wait for the return answer. He got on a train. He snuck out of Kletz and he left to the train station. The Talmidim ran to Rav Aaron. Rav Gedalia is gegangen to the train station. He's going to America. Rav Aaron was not happy. He sent Talmidim, go tell him, as ich hab gesagt, ich heißem zurückkommen zu Yeshiva. The Talmidim went. Gedalia Shore said no. Rav Aaron b'chvoidoi u'ba'atzmoi came down to the train station. Rav Gedalia Shore was in one of the compartments. Rav Aaron was looking. He saw Rav Gedalia Shore in the train compartment. He banged on the window, come out. Gedalia Shore said no. The train left. Rav Gedalia Shore came to America. This is the story I heard tonight. And I was told that people know about this and can be checked out. Rav Gedalia Shore came to America, where he became very active and very quickly in Vad Hatzalah, worked with the legendary Mike Tress. And according to the story, it was the Rav Gedalia Shore inspired Vad Hatzalah that saved, guess who? Rav Aaron Kotler, who then came to America and became active in Hatzalah and saved other Jews. Is it possible this story would have had a different ending if Rav Gedalia Shore had listened to Rav Aaron Kotler?
You have no right to say such a thing.
I saying a story that happened. Before tell, excuse me, what you should do. What does that mean? Who cares?
Who cares?
What do you mean? What does that mean? Who cares?
Maybe it's famous when the comes.
Excuse me.
We don't look.
What? Slow down. What? Slow. Say, just say slow. So I'm gonna see what you're saying. Tell me. I'm willing to hear.
Listen to that story. Listen to that. He would have been saying,
My point is they don't look at outcomes.
even though he would say that alternative.
Excuse me. It happens to be that the Chazar. I mean, I don't want to get involved in a lot of history and theology. I'm trying to make a simple point to you. If you take out a Nefesh HaChaim, or is it the Ruach HaChaim on the Pirkei Avos, he talks in the name of his Rebbe, the Gra, and he speaks about something with H of a Teshia and a Mishnah, Otshu B'roiv Yoyetz. See what Reb Chaim Volozhiner says. He doesn't say just ask one person and automatically you have an answer and bingo, it's done. See what he says in the name of the Gra. I'm trying to explain to you, there's a concept today, listen, respectfully. I'm not trying to chepa and I'm not trying to put on Gedolim. We all learn the Gedal Yohu. Okay, and if you go maybe to the shore children, and you ask them, and maybe if you even go to Rav Aaron's Einiklach, they will confirm this story to you. And it's quite possible, this I don't know, that Rav Aaron afterwards might have told Rav Shua, I don't know this, Ayasha Koyach. The point I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to be chutzpahdik, I'm trying to explain to you, I told you two mices, one of them with Rav Zadel Epstein, about how he told over to Talmidim how certain people didn't listen to the advice that Reb Chaim Oizer gave. It doesn't always mean in every situation. Reb Aaron Kotler, the Chazonish, by the way, said about everything around World War II, he said that we did not know. It's a famous thing that the Chazonish said, he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu kept it from us. Just saying. Now, the last 30 years, the Mesoris, which I call Mesoris Rav Shechter, not Rav Shechter, Mesoris Rav Scherer, the Mesoris of how to deal with politicians. I don't know if you were here when I spoke about it. I can waste a lot of time. I can give you 5 or 6 or 7 instances where I know for a Yediyah Gemura that Rabbi Scherer did not ask Gedolei Torah, not Rav Moshe, not Rav Yankov, not Rav Svei, on dealing with the morality things, with voting, with supporting politicians, etc., etc. It's a fact. This is a Mesorah of his. This was not the Mesorah of Rav Moshe of Yankov. I know because I was involved with this. So you're
saying you should have listened.
So I'm saying that I'm saying that the Mesorah that is now given over to Klal Yisrael by this next generation in agudah Yisrael is a Mesorah of not checking into things, not checking into the moral stands of the politicians, chanfening them, giving them money when they make Hukatei Eva, and this all did not come, not from Rav Aaron, not from Moshe, not from Rav Yaakov, not, I don't think, from Rav Svei, etc. And I told stories about this last time around. We can go through this thing again. I said at the end of Mishnah Brura, for those who were here at the end, I invite everybody to look at the Mishnah Brura. I don't want to repeat it. The Mishnah Brura says, Barachel B'tcha Katana. In the Bir Halacha, at the bottom of the second page of the Mishnah Brura, on the shtickle, in the Ramah that speaks about the Malikim. I don't have my glasses, so I couldn't even read it if I wanted it, but it's right here. And he basically says, if they're making a takana of shmutz, and if you ask them once nicely, and they don't listen, mitzvah lehis koitat imam ulesanoisam, and to fight to them, and it quotes a pasuk and tell them. I asked the question. The manhigim are not doing this today.
Who's these manhigim?
Anyone who's there. Is Satmar doing this? No. Is the Babish doing this? No. Is agudah doing this? No. Is Yom Gizur doing this? No. They're all doing the same thing.
So what's the gather when you listen to a Gadol or not?
What?
Should he have listened to Rabbi Aaron Kohen then or not?
I'm showing you a case of a person, he happened to be a Talmud Chacham, right? That didn't listen to his Rebbe in a certain life and death situation.
Should he have?
Doesn't mean he shouldn't.
When should you? There is such a concept of that.
Here's where we're getting.
What was the?
Here's where we're getting off field. Listen. Here's where we're getting off topic. Listen to me. This I will tell you. Clear. that I have a Messiah from people who were literally the Rebbe a door or a door and a half before all these people who are in leadership positions today, and they had a Messiah and they had a Mahalach and they tudzach rein in the sugya. And I tell you, like I sit here, the Rav David Shustel, Kvoidev B'Kayim Munach, and Rabbi Fegelstadt, Kvoidev B'Kayim Munach, like the Novominska, Kvoidev B'Kayim Munach, did not put in the schwitz, they didn't put in the effort, they didn't put in the ankis, they didn't have a Messiah in it, and they're going with the flow. And I say that clearly. And it's been proven by what's happening here, just like Rav Shua did the right thing by leaving. And he never looked back.
So what was the best
I'm telling you that the last 30... Pardon me?
Who told you to listen to Rabbi Avigdor Miller?
What does that mean, who told you to listen?
Saying, you should not listen.
No.
And everything that he said.
Why
did he take his Messiah?
It's very simple. There's something that says a Rav. Listen. So let's say in the inyan of Maris, of Hilchas Nida, are you going to do an Aseilucha Rav of the Nov Minsker Rav when you get married or whatever? You're going to show him your Maris? I'm asking you a question. Choshen Mishpat. Whatever it is, are you?
Is he a person?
In other words, I'm saying.
Is he a placing on it?
What?
Is he a placing on it? Then why?
No.
Is he a placing on it there?
No.
Okay, so I'm saying that's
Okay. So wait a second. So you're making my point. So Aseilucha Rav or Sha'ala Vicha V'Yagetcha Zikenecha V'Yomelach means that you have to ask someone that's solid into the sugya, that has spent a lot of time and that knows that sugya. You're not going to ask a question in Uksin to Rosh Hashiva and Ezekiel.
Aaron didn't chap was going on in the war.
Pardon me?
Aaron didn't chap was going on in the war.
Aaron did not chap at that point the extent of the war of what was going to happen with Hitler. Obviously, he didn't chap, or he wouldn't have told his Talmud to stay there, and he would have told everybody else to get the heck out.
Maybe he felt if his Talmud stayed, the war wouldn't happen. Maybe he felt, you don't know.
Maybe he felt that
you know, this type of argument. Wait, it's got to be one of the. This type of argument of maybe he would does not slug up a Metzias. We could stand here and declare, I'm telling you a Metzias. He gave a certain piece of advice that this big Talmud Chacham, who was a Talmud of his, did not listen. And he helped in the Valatzola, and he helped bring his Rebbe out. That's it. We can spend the whole night on it. Listen, I'm just putting that information to you.
Story.
The Lashon of the Halach is Anoshim B'nei. It doesn't say Avanim B'nei.
What?
The Lashon of the Halach is Anoshim B'nei, not Avanim B'nei. The Lashon of the Halach is
You see, you're being medayik in the Gvir Halacha what? Excuse me, what? One second, excuse me. Excuse me, I know you're desperate. I don't need to be cutting. This is some Amaratzis what you're saying. Excuse me. The Mishnah Brura, the Biur Halacha, the Chavetz Chaim says, if they're making a gezerah in the region, whether it's a city, state, Medina, which is not good, and you, he didn't mean you the Rabbanim, he said you, any member of Klal Yisrael, goes over and speaks to them, and they don't want to change it, mitzvah l'sanoisam u'lehiskoitit imohem. And I said, and now, and if a Rav comes along and says to you, there's a gezerah, it's against the Torah and everything else, and you are now exempt from being miskoitet and being soina, tachlis sinesinesi, and as a matter of fact, you're supposed to honor them at the agudah dinner and kiss their posteriors. That's wrong!
1 second.
That's wrong!
Sometimes.
You drain a cup.
I have a question about the
It has nothing to do with Rabbanim. That's wrong. But if a Rav tells you on Kegan this, he is wrong. And how do I back it up with Rav Moshe Feinstein, the letter? I don't know if you were last on. Rav Moshe Feinstein said, I brought it in the last.
So how could they sit in the Knesset?
Pardon me?
So how could they sit in the Knesset?
Why do I have to answer for them?
I'm just telling you that there was sometimes. I'm just telling you that sometimes.
Rabbi Sai.
There was Rabbanim sometimes.
Rabbi Sai.
The way how to fight with them was from within them.
It's growing, and I know we've seen tremendous successes.
Every time it's a pacha from Panim.
We've seen.
No one's saying the way how to fight is a pacha from Panim always. sometimes you have to be mischaber
Listen
with
to
them in
me.
order to find with them.
Listen to me. I explained this last time. We're going over, and people ask me not to go over the same stuff as last time. And we're going over the same stuff as last time. I mean, I spoke for hours, and it's on tape. People have recorded it. It's ridiculous. We've gone through this argument. Maybe they mean this. Maybe they meant that. Maybe they're eating kugel and chont on Shabbos. That's a good hypothesis. It's a good chance it's true. All these other maybes are shtus and v'havolim. They're shtus and v'havolim. No, we have to do a practical reality. It's been 30 years. The situation is going from bad to worse. I told you a personal story. I told you that I ran against Solars. And when I ran against him, I was one guy. I wasn't agudah Yisrael. I wasn't anybody. And when I ran against him, he took his sponsorship off the National Gay Rights Bill for 6 years, and he was scared. If agudah Yisrael would have been involved, instead of opposing me and trying to cut my feet off, you understand? If they would have been involved, and the Satmar would have been involved, and instead of all the Chanfonim, so then many other politicians, let me tell you in 3 paragraphs now, how we can mamish change the Metzias. Because if I never say it, let me tell you how to change the Metzias. Listen. In Eretz Yisrael, I went over to Rabbi Safranovich. He's the head of the Geravat Hatznias. And he's desperate to stop this tumor parade. I told this story maybe of the first year, not in the second one.